Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Your Career is Calling. This is Frank Kovacs from Rider University on 107.7 The Bronx and online at 1077thebronx.com. Your Career is Calling is the first radio program of its kind, helping students and professionals to manage and run their careers as a business. The CEO of Me Inc. My co-host Wanda Ellett and I will be here for you over the next 60 minutes, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be taking calls at 877-900-1077. Again, that's 877-900-1077. Behind the glass today, producing our show, is Rider University's intern, Stuart Kovacs. Wanda, how's it going this morning?
Awesome. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
Happy Father's Day to our guest as well.
Thank you.
Today, our guest is Paul Babicki. Paul I've known for over 10 years, and he's just put out an exciting new book called NetEtiquette. And basically, a lot of people in the industry are hearing how important it is today to effectively collaborate. You know, we have groups that span the globe now and companies that have to work around the globe together. And there's a lot of new innovations out there in that collaboration space. But what Paul's done is he's taken on the more important task of the content that we work on. A lot of the communications we do is via email, and that's the predominance of communications right now. And Paul has written a book called NetEtiquette that really gets to the heart of it and how to be more effective and really understand all the different nuances of email and how it impacts the ability to communicate effectively. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Frank.
And
thank
Paul,
you, Wanda.
We also have one of your partners, Serkan Gecmen, on the phone. And can you introduce Serkan?
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you again for having me on your show. It's very exciting. I have to say that this is my introduction to the audio media, so please excuse any nuances I have. When it comes to writing email, it's a different story. But I have live from Las Vegas.
Do we have to do the drum roll?
Serkan Gecmen, and Serkan is developing a software product which I think will be of great interest to students, professionals, the layman alike, in terms of measuring your IQ. And you'll be able to go in and get a rating on what your email IQ is and how it relates to everybody else. And you'd be surprised because most people think they're going to have a high IQ. And the reality is many people are disappointed and will come in much lower. But there's hope.
So what we're talking about here is your book is only a piece of really what people you have to share with the people. The book actually talks about the different aspects of email, but then along with it, you have both a blog site as well as this software that you're talking about now that really allows the person to have their emails be analyzed by this software and give them feedback as to what level of proficiency their email is being put together at compared to those standards that you defined in the book.
That's absolutely correct. And the good news is if your NetiquetteIQ is low, it can easily be raised dramatically by the tools that the book offers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off first. Where did you get the idea for the book?
I do discuss that in the introduction of the book, and it's a culmination of events that have happened over the years, but I think the real thing that really got it going was I was in a bookstore and I saw a book spiral notebook cover, and and I was buying supplies for my girls, and it looked like one of the covers was if you've ever seen a periodic table of elements,
Mhm.
it's a little matrix, and it includes every element, and these elements, it gives the symbol and the atomic weight. And I picked it up, and that's what I thought it was, because I felt it was a good educational tool. So when I arrived home, I was very dismayed to find that this was not the periodic table of elements.
Like what?
It was a table of internet lingo, internet speak, which were all the shortcuts you take in composing email. And I said, if that's what it's come down to, we're in a sad state. And I began putting together the book over a period of about 2 years.
Wow.
So you're talking about all the acronyms that have come up with, mostly through texting today. And what we see is the millennials go and come into the workforce, a lot of them are carrying over those acronyms into the workforce. I mean, years ago, programmers would have enjoyed that because it's always the least amount of keystrokes that you need in order to accomplish your task from a programmer standpoint. But as they try and interface with those of us that aren't from the texting generation, it's a little bit tough sometimes when you see these different things come across in the email and you're wondering, what the heck are they talking about?
That's absolutely correct. And a lot of this, all of the acronyms and all of the lingo have come into our culture so that when you write a normal letter, you might find yourself doing that.
Oh, it's horrible. Especially with the word your. I always put you are, and I catch myself sometimes even in email doing that, and it's just absolutely, I cringe every time I catch myself doing it. It's just horrible.
There's a million of them, and we have a very nice appendix in the book and some good samples in the book showing you the more common ones, and that list is growing exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book there's also an example of which I wrote, the Gettysburg Address, the original Gettysburg Address, and what it would look like today if Abraham Lincoln used Netiquette speak
Well, one
or
thing that's
Lingo
really
speak.
I was
One
wondering,
thing
did you
that's
do it as a tweet? No, geez.
one thing that's really interesting is this year is actually the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg.
That's right.
And what has happened is that day, the mayor wasn't expecting the president to arrive. So the mayor had actually talked for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So when Lincoln got up there, even though he spent a long time writing it the night before there in Gettysburg, he was actually abbreviating everything because he didn't have that much time, because everybody was out in 95-degree weather that day, and he was trying to help out the crowd.
That's correct.
Mhm.
And even though it was shortened in terms of what he meant to do, it still was not shortened in terms of the language.
Exactly.
And it came through beautifully
Mhm.
for posterity.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about, email as a communication today, I know it's very pervasive because I see my inbox every day. What percentage of communications on average in business are people using email versus other mediums?
Well, that's hard to say. It would really depend upon the actual industry itself.
Mhm.
But phone calls, letter writing, any type of personal communication is vanishing very quickly. And I'd like to add that even though the technology is greatly improving, the fact is that the amount of useful information getting through because of the technology is decreasing. So approximately 85 to 90% of email is spam or useless email.
Yeah, that's an important thing to pick up. You know, most of the major firms out there spend a lot of money on software that actually keeps the majority of email from actually ever reaching their people.
Yeah.
Because there is so many different vendors and advertisements, and not to speak of malware and everything else, which is email that could contain viruses and Trojan horses that people send into these firms all day. And they proactively screen that out using antivirus software and, you know, different types of
Even
software
address books.
in order to keep that down. So that's a good piece of it that people may not even be aware of. I would say it's the majority of email that is coming through these mail servers is actually deleted out as spam and held in, you know, containers and deleted and doesn't even really reach the recipients.
That's absolutely true, and there's a downside to that, because if you happen to write a good email that is really not spam, if you're not conversant with proper netiquette, your email may be spammed. And we have a list in the book, in the appendix, that tells you what words to avoid.
Like
Yeah.
what? Like what would be some of the words?
It would be sale, it
Mhm.
would be money, it would be anything to do with free. So anything that has a commercialized tone to it
Yeah.
or connotation to it is more likely to be spam.
So to use a practical example here, let's say Paul was a potential employer and he wrote you to come in for an interview. And you wrote back, okay, Paul, you know, I'm very interested in that opportunity. Let me know when your schedule is free.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, just because of one 4-letter word you put in your email, he may never see your response, and then it could be caught in the spam filter, and then as a result of that, he may think you're not interested because he didn't hear back from you. And most of the jobs posted today have so many applicants for them, he's not gonna spend the time to follow up with you.
Yeah.
He's just gonna go
Oh,
on to
she's
the
not
next person
interested.
that
Next.
responded.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's why the importance of this book is, you know, so paramount, because you don't know these little traps that you could be falling into. So to Paul's point, something that innocent, if you go to NetEtiquette and you understand the rules and then ran it through the program that Serkan put through, it would have pointed this out to you, and then you know how to not use that word, instead use a different word that means the same thing, but wouldn't hold you victim of the spam filter.
So it, I guess, so a lot of the netiquette is understanding like some of the rules within, you know, what words not to use, and it's not necessarily, you know, I guess some of the content, but it kind of, do you provide the content on the email as well? Because I know like even the way that people interface, even with an email, it's more, you know, because it's becoming shorter, more abbreviated, and you have to be more impactful within your emails, that you have less time to catch people because it's like a tweet of 140 characters, you know, you gotta jam it all in and still get your point across.
Well, that's a very good question statement. What we also do in the book is we discuss power words.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a question of having your email come through.
Mm-hmm.
It's a question of getting your point across. And there are good words to use, words that are nice sounding, words that connote something pleasant or something good, as opposed to words that have a negative connotivity to them or just don't sound good. And we have glossaries and chapters which discuss that.
So a lot of our people, they want to go and they want to thank the person after the interview. Using Paul's intelligence that he presents in the book, you will write your thank you, but then, using his book to double check what you wrote, you can put in these more powerful words. You can know which words to avoid that you may have used inadvertently. You'll know how to avoid it going to the spam filter. There's so many
So this is even
different
beyond-
aspects that it comes together, and it's all captured in this one little book.
So it's
And
beyond
then-
just using their words,
Yes.
like reiterating, and when you're in the interview, you wanna make sure that you're, really paying attention to the verbiage that your interviewer uses, so then you can kind of repeat that back to them and parrot it back.
Yeah.
So you're speaking that same language. This goes and takes it even, it's almost like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming kind of thing, or is it like even
No,
different than that?
It's more like having an understanding, like a flight simulator,
Mhm,
of all the different things that come together, including the device and the spell checker that you're doing your email on, and understanding how all of this stuff works together so that in the end, what you want to communicate, what you intend,
Yeah.
actually is what you communicate, rather than something else. And that, your message reaches the intended recipient.
Oh my God, you can blow my
Yeah.
mind.
And then, a lot of people don't realize,
You don't even think about it.
a lot of people don't realize, they just take it as second nature, that whatever they typed is automatically going to be perceived as they intended it. No, you have
No,
to
I
keep
know.
your audience in mind and how they're going to see it, and that's what Paul has put together here, and that's what I find so amazing about it, is nobody's ever looked at the content.
Yeah.
Everybody's worried about the vehicle, what kind of smartphone they have, what kind of software do they use,
Yeah, like what
Word
kind of car
or
they
something
drive
else.
into,
But it all doesn't matter if the content's not there. You got to get the content first, then the rest of it will naturally flow. And, when we get back from break, we're going to talk more about, how Paul has now collaborated with Serkan and taken it to the next level where it's actually interactive, where you can take your emails now, run it through their software, and then it tells you what you've done wrong. So even though you've read the book, you may not have mastered applying it, this software will tell you where you're doing good and where you're deficient so that you could raise up your mastery to the next level.
And Serkan's test will help you understand where those deficiencies are and really point out to you the fact that maybe I'm not doing such a good job with tone. Maybe I'm not doing such a good job with my salutation or my grammar or my sentence length or the way that I repeat words.
Right now, we're going to go to our break. This is Frank Kovacs and my co-host Wanda Ellett from Rider University on 107.7 The Bronx and online at 1077thebronx.com. From the questions Wanda asked, I'm sure there's a lot of you that may have some out there. So feel free to call in at 877-900-1077. Again, that's 877-900-1077, and find out more directly from Paul and his work on NetEtiquetteIQ on how you could raise up your email intelligence.